Smart Objects got a couple of enhancements here inside of CS4. I'll walk you through a quick project and you can see some of the changes here. I'll show you a couple little tips along the way as well. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is we'll start off with the Lesson 9A image. I'm just going to right click on this background layer thumbnail and choose Convert to Smart Object. And then I'm going to make a copy. Just hit Command J on the Mac or Control J on a PC. Now, what I want to do here is take a copy of this and make it smaller. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and make a square rectangle in the bottom corner. And then I'm going to add a mask to that layer. Just click on the layer mask icon, and you'll see it adds a mask, although nothing changes because it's really the same photo overlaid on top of the same photo. So we don't see any changes yet. But as I start to take my Move tool and move this photo around, see how it changes? So you see, now we're actually taking a copy of the photo, we're moving it. But this kind of brings me to my first feature, which is notice that the mask and the photo are both moving at the same time. All right, that didn't happen before CS4. There was no link between the mask and the photo itself, between the photo thumbnail and the mask. There was no little link icon in there, and you couldn't turn a link icon on. So you would have to move one, and then you'd have to go and you'd have to move the other one. So that's your probably one of the main new feature for anybody that really likes Smart Objects. That feature is going to be a godsend. Okay. Now I am going to turn it off for a second here, because while I do want to move them, what I also want to do here is turn it off and click on the photo thumbnail and go into Edit Free Transform. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and then kind of just move it in between there. So there's some times where you want that link on and there's some times where you don't. Another time where you might want it on is like right now. I'm going to click in there, turn it back on, go back into Free Transform, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. All right. So there's kind of new feature number one. New feature number two is under the Edit menu. I went under Free Transform to do things, but if you go under the Transform menu, you will see that Distort and Perspective are now available. And it seems like a small thing, but they weren't available with Smart Objects in previous versions of Photoshop. If you don't use Smart Objects a lot, you might not think it's a big deal, but especially if you use these things to work back and forth between Illustrator and Photoshop, or you use it for graphical design perspectives, this is going to be a really big feature, because a lot of folks wanted to be able to do perspective and distort type of operations on their Smart Objects, and they just couldn't. They were grayed out and you weren't able to do it. Okay? Alright, so a couple other things here. Let's just click on the background layer, go to my adjustments palette up here, maybe add a black and white adjustment and just increase the yellows a little bit. And I'm going to give you one last little tip here. I'm going to click on the top layer, and this actually has nothing to do with Smart Objects. I'm going to click on the top layer here with the small photo. Click in an empty area. Okay, just empty area, not on one of the thumbnails. Double click there. Go down to stroke and check this out. See how it no longer is a red stroke by default? It's actually black by default. So I can come in here, change position to inside, increase the size just a little bit, and maybe add a slight drop shadow underneath it. Alright, that looks pretty good. While black is the default, I might want to change this one over to white, so I'll change it to white. And I kind of think that looks better, but trust me, it's no longer red. So the ones I use are either black or they're white. So just having it as one of those two saves me the work 50% of the time from changing it. But in this circumstance, I think I am going to leave it at white and hit OK. So now we've got this neat little template. The whole reason that I used Smart Objects for this was because now I can click on any one of the Smart Object layers. I can click on the top one, or I can come down here and click on the bottom one. I can go to my layer menu, go down to Smart Objects and Replace Contents, and inside here I'm going to choose Lesson 9B, hit Place, and you're going to see it's going to replace both of those photos. It left the layer styles, the sizing, the resizing, the transformations. It left all that intact, and now I could always come up here, and in this circumstance I would turn the link off and take my Move tool and just maybe click on the photo thumbnail and just move the photo down a little bit. But either way, it's a neat way to be able to work with templates inside here. And now that Smart Objects got those couple of changes, you have the link icon between the layer masks, and you also have the distort and the perspective functions underneath the transformations, and that just makes Smart Objects have more features to them, so hopefully more and more people will start to use them because they are a good thing.